So as you can see, we're just jumping right on into it. And welcome to Time About the Movies. Today we're taking a look at the one big new release for October 22nd, 2010. And that is, of course, Paranormal Activity 2, which is, of course, the sequel to the last year's breakout hit Paranormal Activity. And as the trailer said right there, in 2009 you demanded it, and now in 2010 you're going to get it anyway because the first film was such a big success. Even though there is a demanded to see it first thing on here, which I don't know what that meant. Does that mean that maybe they had some like early screenings going for it? But this movie is essentially a prequel to the events of Paranormal Activity, which actually begins 2 months before the events of the original film, and it's set over a longer period of time and eventually concludes after the first film's ending. As this time around, we're following Katie's sister, Christy, who starts suspecting that a supernatural entity is tormenting them. And as we find out at the end of the movie, that turns out to be Katie herself, because now she, remember from the first movie, she's possessed now by the demon in that movie, and the movie literally ends with her taking the baby with her at the end of that movie. Sorry for spoilers, but that's exactly what happened. Yeah, this is a film that was very interesting because, as I've been building up here for the last couple of years now, with the Saw movies had essentially been the films that were the Halloween staples. Like, every Halloween it had to be a new Saw movie coming out, and it was going to be a big success regardless of what you thought or not. But because nobody was really coming in there and trying to combat with Saw because it was just such a powerful franchise in general. But by 2009, there was a lot of vulnerability, and Paranormal Activity was the first movie to come in and really take away that muster from Saw. And it was this movie in particular that really made Paranormal Activity the next big Halloween must-see destination film for a spooky thrill ride. Saw, because Saw comes out the next week, and this Saw 3D isn't going to do as well as Paranormal Activity 2 did. Paranormal Activity basically chopped off Jigsaw and took over the Halloween staple lineup from that point going forward. And interesting enough, this film was directed by Todd Williams, whose last movie he directed was The Door in the Floor, a completely different movie, which is a straight-up drama with Jeff Bridges and Kim Basinger. So yeah, this is definitely a very interesting path to go down, especially after that movie. But yeah, Paranormal Activity 2, there is a bigger budget involved because, of course, the first one was a very small-budgeted film, and now that the Paramount's given them more money to do whatever they want, but then again, it's also Jason Blum, and Jason Blum pretty much can do whatever he wants to with a smaller budget, and this was back in a time when he can make that work, and sure enough, he did a pretty good job of handling this. This actually turned out to be a much better movie, expanding the storyline from the last film, and giving us a good indication of how this connects to the original film, because as I said, it's essentially a prequel, which ends up being which at the end ends up being something that happens at the end of the first movie. I mean, they do a good job of bookending both movies together. So if this movie didn't end up doing as well as it would eventually do, you could probably wrap this up in just 2 movies. But of course, like I said, this is a movie where it's basically a success all the way through, and of course there's going to be another one later. And yeah, this does a very good job of upping the ante. The tension is very good in here. The scare factors are pretty good here too. There are scares in here that are legitimately good. Suspenseful moments that are legitimately good. They do a very good job of doing so much with so little with the found footage element, and they make it work to a T. It is a very good film overall. It's an impressively put together film. It's a really intense film. It's just a terrific movie, man. It's a really solid sequel. One of the few horror sequels to actually outdo the original film in terms of upping the ante. But then again, it is kind of like what happened with Saw. Saw was a good movie overall, but then Saw 2 upped the ante in terms of what they could do in general, and it leads into a pretty solid series in general for the first couple of films. Sort of like what happens with Paranormal Activity. I think this one does a very good job upping the ante from the first movie, and it does it well to a T. It's one I highly recommend checking out. It's definitely shows that this series did have some good movies going into it, and definitely wasn't just a one-trick pony with the first film. They knew what they were doing up at the ante, at least for the first couple of films, especially with the next movie, Paranormal Activity 3, which is arguably the best one of the series. And yeah, definitely one worth checking out. Paranormal Activity 2, can't recommend it enough. So with that said, that's going to wrap this episode of Time About the Movies up. And like I said, next week we'll have Saw 3D, which will hopefully try to compete with Paranormal Activity 2, but eventually not do as well as the other Saw movies in general. We have the conclusion of the Millennium Trilogy, The Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest, and we have Gareth Edwards' first big film as a director, Monsters. So we have 3 films to look at to wrap up October and get you set for the holiday season coming up the week after that. But we'll take a look at those next time around. That'll be tomorrow. But until then, thank you so much for watching this very quick episode. If you like what you saw and want to see more videos like this, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification button. Also, don't forget to hit the playlist and also check out the last episode we did. With that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.